Hey guys, I recently went to Vienna and I couldn't stop thinking about you guys because the place is just amazing. I'm just in Vienna at the moment. It's a beautiful day. It's actually 30 degrees Celsius. And the place is just incredible. I mean, take a look at this. It is just absolutely incredible. Everywhere you look, there's remnants of the Baroque times, of the classical times, the romantic times, and there's beautiful architecture. There are sculptures of famous composers and musicians everywhere, and incredible museums, and some of the most famous concert halls and performance spaces in the world. So I thought I'm going to put together a video. If you ever get to go to Europe, you have to go to Vienna if you're a string player because the place is just amazing. There's so much culture and history around stringed instruments. It's just amazing. Why is Vienna such an important cultural center? And I think it has to do a lot with the Habsburgs because they had a huge empire, the Austrian Empire that later became the Austro-Hungarian Empire. A branch of the Habsburgs also became the Spanish crown that ruled a lot of South America and Mexico. There was just an incredible amount of wealth in the whole empire, and Vienna being the center of this empire obviously was the center of all the culture, or the cultural center. So the Habsburg dynasty literally ruled from the 1200s, 1282 I think, until the end of the First World War. That's just crazy. It's over 700 years. They ruled places like Bohemia, Hungary, Slovakia, Croatia, Lombardy, the north of Italy. Cremona was actually ruled under Austrian rule when Stradivarius was making instruments. And they loved Italian things and Italian culture as well, the Habsburgs. The amazing thing about Vienna is everywhere you go, you see statues, you see music houses, you see beautiful architecture from the Baroque, from the classical time, from the romantic time, even the modern times. It was an incredibly wealthy place. So if you're a string player, these are the things you have to do when you go to Vienna. First of all, if you like cycling, why not ride around Vienna? It's a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying riding along these streets here. What do you think, Carly? They've got these hire bikes everywhere. It's really cool. The other thing you have to do is you have to have coffee and cakes, because Kaffee and Kuchen is a very big thing in Vienna. It's actually a very German thing, but big in Vienna. Then there are some amazing museums you can go to. Firstly, there are the houses that some of the famous composers stayed in. There was like Mozart's house, or a place where Mozart lived. He did live in quite a number of places in Vienna, but there is still one of his houses that you can see if you can't make it to Salzburg, which has Mozart's birth house, which is really cool. So when Mozart was in Vienna, he moved 13 times, but there's one place that's still standing, and it's this house here in the Domgasse. He actually lived there from 1784 till 1787. That was a long time before I was born. This is also where he met up with Haydn in Vienna, and he wrote some of his string quartets dedicated to Haydn, especially the latest string quartets. And they used to do impromptu concerts. The annual rent of this place was 460 florins, probably a little less than now. And so he actually did quite well. Then there is one of the places that Beethoven lived in. Now, in the 30 years that Beethoven lived in Vienna, he moved 60 times. He actually annoyed a whole lot of landlords. He was a bit of a moody guy, and he would fall out with his landlords, and he'd kind of have to go. Sometimes he'd be paying rent at 1, 2, or even 3 places at the same time. I think he was also a little forgetful. So you can actually visit the house where Beethoven wrote his 4th symphony, as well as his Heiligstadt Testament. And so they've actually got a really beautiful new museum there. If you love Beethoven, you have to go. You can see the last apartment that Joseph Haydn lived in. It's also a museum. There is the house where Franz Schubert was born. That was a really crowded place where Franz Schubert was born. Like, it was a beautiful house, but you know, they lived there with 16 other families, and the apartments were tiny with just a living room and a little kitchen. That was about it. I don't even know if it had a bathroom. It may have been shared. Then there's also the house where Schubert died near the Naschmarkt. Also worth seeing. Now, in Vienna, there are some amazing performance spaces. Now, I'm not going to mention a lot of these because there are concerts everywhere all the time in Vienna. When I went to Vienna, I went right in the middle of summer. We didn't end up being able to go to any concerts because it just wasn't concert season and everyone was on holidays. But there is firstly the Wiener Musikverein, which is one of the most famous concert halls in Vienna, and it's in the inner city district. It opened in 1807 and it's the home of the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra. But then the Konzerthaus is right near there. So this is the famous Vienna concert house. We're not here during concert season, so we are not going to see any concerts at the same time. So it was opened in 1913. It's an amazing place, absolutely worth going to, and it'd be worth, you know, if you come during concert season, go and see some concerts there. That would just be an amazing experience, you know. Then there is, of course, the Vienna State Opera, which is also really amazing, absolutely worth seeing. I rode my bike around there a lot. I didn't actually get to go inside. And then, of course, there's all these other performance spaces. There's so many beautiful churches. So take a look at some of the beautiful churches that are in Vienna as well. They're just incredible. The Habsburgs were strongly religious. They were Roman Catholic. They were able to rule for such a long time because they had the support of the church, and they supported the church really well as well. And so there's some really beautiful churches in Vienna as well, absolutely worth seeing. And obviously they'd have a lot of choral music, they'd have beautiful organs and chamber music in churches as well. Next, there's some museums that you have to see. If you don't have time to go to a lot of places, go to the House of Music, because that gives you a really good overview over a lot of the composers that lived in Vienna. It actually talks a lot about acoustics, so there's a whole floor dedicated to acoustics, and you can do experiments and things like that. I didn't stay as long because I really wanted to get to the composers, but it's a whole lot of fun. Then there's sections on the composers, a little bit about their instruments. There's sections where you can actually conduct your own orchestra, like a virtual orchestra, and that's a lot of fun. Also, the place to go would be the collection of old musical instruments. It's tricky to find. It's in the Hofburg. The Hofburg is actually the seat of power of the Habsburgs, and that's where the emperors were at the end. It has, I think, around 2,700 rooms. It's huge. It's a huge complex. There's just so much there. It just blows your mind. It's also where Sisi's palace is housed, and it's absolutely worth seeing because the Empress Sisi, or Elizabeth, had a you can really see what it's like and how they lived. It's quite amazing. Yes, but in there as well is the collection of musical instruments, and it's absolutely worth seeing. I'm at the Hofburg in Vienna, believe it or not. They have a really amazing collection of instruments, absolutely worth seeing. It's here at the Hofburg upstairs, so I'll take you through and show you a few of the instruments, but if you get a chance to come to Vienna, you've got to have a look. All right, let's go inside. Just about to go into the collection of old instruments. There are rooms dedicated to different Austrian composers, and there's a huge stringed instrument collection. Now there's actually a collection of all different instruments, but I just went straight to the stringed instruments because they were interesting. So they have a collection of Jacobus Steiner instruments that are quite amazing. Now, Jacobus Steiner was super famous for being one of the early violin makers, Austro-Germanic violin makers. They're fairly rare. He was a really good German violin maker, and at one point he was actually even more popular than Stradivarius. There are lots of different instruments from different Viennese makers, a couple of French instruments and a couple of Italian instruments. Wow, they've even got a violin by Niccolo Amati here from the 1640s. It's just an incredible collection of instruments here. They even have a Betz violin here. And then there's also a Grancino cello. Now I'm in the Franz Schubert room. What I really love is that they have quartets of instruments here. And then we got 3 violins by Carl Zach from the late 1800s. But absolutely fascinating. They're kind of dotted throughout the whole display. It's a whole wing of the Hofburg, but it's absolutely worth seeing. It's quite incredible. That was just a truly magical collection of musical instruments. So if you're in Vienna, it's definitely worth looking for. It's a bit hard to find. It's in amongst the armory and that kind of stuff off to one side. So maybe ask your way, but it's really incredible. So I have a lot of harpsichords, pianos, but I was mostly there for the violins of the different violin makers. A lot of famous violin makers, Viennese violin makers, as well as some other like Amati violins, Jacobus Steiner. So anyway, if you get a chance, have a look. Then there's of course the Strauss Museum, Strauss, the famous waltzes and things like that. That would be a sight to see, as well as the Vienna Museum on the Karlsplatz, about all of Vienna. So that would just be amazing to see. Also, everywhere you go, there are statues of different composers and string players. I mean, I was just wandering through our local park and take a look what's up ahead. There you go, it's a Johann Strauss statue. And here is the Ludwig van Beethoven statue, which is famously known for a musician who had a long career playing in the Vienna orchestra. And when he retired, he walked past there and it just went nit, 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 nah. Anyway, that's a musician's joke, a German musician's joke. And you see all these statues around with people holding violins, and I've never heard of this guy before, but there he is, holding a violin. There are statues of Strauss, Mozart, Beethoven, Schubert, Bruckner. Like, these were all statues that I saw on the way through, like just riding my bike and looking around, but I know there are a whole heap more. So absolutely worth seeing for that. And then there are a whole lot of violin makers. I just Googled violin makers, and there's a whole lot. There's a couple of friends of mine that actually work there. I came during holiday season, so they weren't there, but and makers I worked with in the past. So it's a fantastic place for string players to go to really immerse yourself into that culture. It really was the home of classical music, with Beethoven, Mozart, spending so much time there. This is Himmelpfortgasse. Both Mozart and Handel had pastoral concerts here. That's cool. So Himmelpfortgasse is actually where Sebastian Dellinger had his violin workshop. I don't know where though. It's beautiful though. and you really get that feel for that culture, like everywhere you go. 16th century, 17th century, 18th century, and the statue, the 19th century. And like I said, if you like cycling, go for a bit of a bike ride. If you're not good at bike riding, maybe not. Maybe just walk. Everything's really close. It's just so beautiful here in Vienna, and what an amazing place. If you love classical music or romantic music, it's definitely a place you've got to go to. You know, you can visit Mozart, the Mozart house, one of the places that Beethoven lived in, and there's museums, there's the instrument collection, and there are just so many other places to visit and go to. There's concerts, there's the opera house, there's the Konzerthaus. Anyway, I hope you had a look at this video. I hope it gave you a bit of an insight into Vienna. It wasn't meant to be a really big tour of Vienna or anything like that. I'm sure there's other videos that do that. It was just a violin maker's perspective of Vienna. I hope you liked the video. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified every time I post a new video. In the meantime, keep making beautiful music. If you like classical music, play classical music. If you like Baroque, play Baroque. If you like jazz, play jazz. If you like rock music, play rock music. Whatever you like to listen to, that's the kind of music you should be playing, and it's a whole lot of fun. Anyway, keep making beautiful music, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!